Hi, I'm Claire and this is the Hamilton book tag. This tag was originally created by Maureen Keevy and it did rounds a while back. I've actually wanted to make this video for ages and ages because I've been obsessed with Hamilton for ages and ages. Now, as you may know, Hamilton has recently opened in London, and if you're watching this video on the day that I'm posting it, then please don't hate me, but right now I'm sitting in the room where it happens, probably crying my eyes out. Because Act 2. Anyway, this tag originally had 10 questions plus some bonuses, so I've chosen my favorite 10 to answer out of that. But if you want to see the extra questions that I didn't pick, I'll add all of them in the description box below. And now, on to the questions. Question 1 is the room where it happens. A book world you would put yourself in. Whenever a question like this comes up in a tag, my mind is immediately drawn to Harry Potter, like everybody else's, or to worlds with dragons in them, like the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik. But I think in those worlds, the chance that I'd end up being a completely mundane person that nothing exciting ever happens to would be too high. So I'm going to pick the Wayfarer's universe from Becky Chambers' novels, starting with The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I think being a regular, non-special, non-heroic person in that sci-fi world would still be pretty interesting. Question 2 is Right Hand Man, your favorite Verity. Definitely Jack Zimmerman and Shitty Knight from Check Please, the hockey and pie-based webcomic from Ngozi Ukazu that I've been obsessed with. This comic has an amazing cast of characters. It's one of my favorite ensemble casts of all time. And because it takes place in the hockey team spread house, it does have a lot of bro-y type interactions. So really I could have picked anyone in the house for this question. But I love Jack and Shitty specifically because they've already been best bros for like 2 years when the comic starts. So you get to see this very well-established friendship where they really trust each other well enough that they can take the piss out of each other, but they're unquestionably supportive of one another. Their friendship feels like some of my closest friendships feel like in real life, and that's just lovely to see on the page. Question 3 is My Shot, a character that goes after what they want and doesn't let anything stop them. I'm going to pick Verity Price from the Encrypted series by Seanan McGuire. Mostly because in the first 2 books of this series, where she's the main protagonist, Verity's conflicts are all about her figuring out what she wants to do with her life and how to achieve that. She has 2 very definite, very different options ahead of her, but she works to merge those options and creates her own path that's like a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Plus her love interest in those books is someone who starts off very much as her enemy, but she's not ready to give up on whatever there might be between them, even though it would be a lot easier for her not to pursue that relationship. Basically, I love Verity. She's such a badass. Question 4, what comes next? A series you wish had more books. I want to say the Finishing School series by Gail Carriger, even though that answer is a bit of a cheat. This is a YA series that's set in the same universe as Gail Carriger's Parasol Protectorate and Custard Protocol novels. And there are also more novellas to read in the same world. So honestly, there's already more. But honestly, and I know this isn't a super popular opinion, but the Finishing School books were my favorite by far in this world, and I just want more books about what Sophronia gets up to after the end of the series. I want to see more of Soap in his new environment, and Vive as a child, and Satay as a young woman, and that's not where the extra material in this series is going, and that bums me out. Question 5 is Burn, the most heartbreaking end to a relationship you've ever read. Okay, spoiler warning for His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. I'm sure the ending of The Ember Spyglass isn't the most heartbreaking end to a relationship I've ever read, but it's what came to my mind first when I read this question, because I think it was the first time that I read a book that didn't tie everything up neatly at the end in a big bow. It didn't have a classic happy ending, certainly not where Lyra and Will were concerned, and in my little 13-year-old heart, I hadn't really considered the possibility of a bittersweet ending to a book before, and it felt too real and not enough like a story. Like, honestly, it still bothers me now that I can't reach into the book and fix it. Question 6 is what did I miss? A book or series you were late to reading. Definitely The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. There was a lot of buzz around this book before he got published, and I had it on my most anticipated releases for 2017 list. And it came out in spring last year, but I still didn't read it until December, even though I owned a copy. I wasn't actively delaying reading this book for any reason, and in fact once I started reading it, I finished it super quickly. But I did end up reading it month and month after everybody else who read it and reviewed it around the release date. Question 7 is the Reynolds Pamphlet. A book with a twist that you didn't see coming. Definitely Feed by Mary Grant. I'm not going to go into details because spoilers, but the twist I'm thinking of is a character death. This shouldn't be too surprising given that it's a zombie book, but it took me totally by surprise. I did not expect the narrative to go there, even though I probably should have seen it coming. In my own defense, it was my introduction to Mary Grant / Shauna Maguire's writing, so I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Question 8 is Nonstop, a series you marathoned. Definitely The Society of Gentlemen by KJ Charles. These were the first 3 books that I read in 2018 and I just could not get enough of them. They are male-male Regency romance novels with quite a bit more politics to the plots than I was expecting, and they were so engrossing. I listened to the audiobook on the new Audible Unlimited romance package, and it was great being able to just go from one book to the next because I didn't want to stop and have to wait for another Audible credit. The thing with these books is that they're a lot more interconnected than most of the other romance series that I've read in terms of the plot. You have to read them in order or you would get spoiled. That was definitely part of why I inhaled this series so quickly, because I just needed to know what would happen next. Question 9 is Satisfied, your favorite book with multiple POVs. This has to be A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. There are obviously many point of view characters in the series, and goodness knows I have my issues with some of them. Being in Theon's head in some of the early books is just gross. Like, he is the worst and I hated it. But the thing is, all of the points of views are so different from one another. I never got confused as to whose head I was in any particular chapter because their voices are so different. Question 10 is Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story? A book or series you feel like will be remembered throughout history. Now, I think given the outpouring of grief that we've seen this week at the news of Ursula K. Le Guin's passing, it's fair to say that her novels will be remembered for a very long time. Her non-fiction work too, everything that she wrote affected so many of us. She was such a brilliant writer and such an influence to the whole field of science fiction and fantasy, and like I said, her work has just touched so many of us. The first book that I read by her was The Dispossessed, just after I finished university, so that's the one that means the most to me personally still. But I think the whole Hainish cycle, especially The Left Hand of Darkness, will be remembered for many years to come. I mean, she's just helped shape the entire genre, and that's not something that is going to leave us anytime soon. So that's it, this was the Hamilton book tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you're a Hamilton fan, and let me know in the comments down below as well what your favorite songs are. I would say mine are probably Dear Theodosia and Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story. But I also weirdly get super pumped when the election of 1800 comes on, because there's so much tension in that one and it's such a twist, it's such a surprise, and the whole plot revolves around it. I don't know, I feel like it's a weird song to have as a favorite though. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check out a previous video right about here, and if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button that's on my face right here for new videos every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon. Apologies for no cat today, by the way, she's sleeping on the couch in the living room.